And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign, they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. That was our president at the United Nations on Tuesday. This is one of those moments that makes me embarrassed to be an American. It would be easier to laugh at the idiocracy we've become if it were not so dangerous, if it were not hurting so many people around the world and here at home. I watched Trump's UN speech before interviewing Jocelyn Benson, who was running for governor in Michigan. And it occurred to me that the timing was perfect because if elected, Jocelyn will be in charge of a state economy that relies on trade, on international partners, on America's reputation in the world more than just about any other state. Jocelyn and I also talked about the need to hold the Trump regime and its functionaries accountable. That's a question I've been asking every candidate who comes on the show. It's a wide-ranging conversation and a good one. I hope you'll watch. Quick reminder, Bobby Jones will be guest hosting next week as I head out for Ukraine. Please consider subscribing on Substack to help support that reporting trip. Here's my conversation with Jocelyn Benson. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. My guest today is Jocelyn Benson, Michigan's Secretary of State and one of the country's leading defenders of democracy. She has overseen some of the most high-profile elections in America. She's stood up to threats and intimidation and fought to make sure every vote counts. She is now running for governor of Michigan. Jocelyn Benson, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I know you haven't seen it yet because the president just wrapped up his speech in New York at the UN, but it's one of these moments that's happening increasingly often now where I feel embarrassed to be an American. It was that bad. At one point, he declares to the assembled heads of state, your countries are going to hell. And I just want your take as someone running for governor of Michigan, where 1 in 5 jobs is related to trade, where something like $60 billion worth of goods were exported last year. How do you navigate this when you have our head of state burning down everything when it comes to international trade, with tariffs, with immigration? He's on, well, I was going to say he's on a warpath. He's actually on a literal warpath in other domains, but when it comes to trade and international relations, he is making life for Michiganders really, really hard.
Yes. I have seen firsthand how much this cruelty of this administration and the corruption and the chaotic economic policies have hurt the people of my state. And it is infuriating. It is embarrassing. And it is upon all of us, but particularly those who will be leading our states, the CEOs, the governors. It is on us to stand up to this on behalf of every single person in our state, including those who voted for him, because Trump promised Michiganders that he would lower the cost of living for all of them. I have spoken to farmers who have soybeans that don't know what they're going to do with their inventory because of these tariffs. Small business owners who don't know how they're going to get to their inventory because of these tariffs. Auto dealers and manufacturers who are consistently anxious about whether or not they're going to even be able to build the things that they rely on to feed their families. All the while, the cost of living is going up and wages are stagnant. So for me, as someone running to be the next governor of Michigan, it is imperative that we communicate to our citizens there is a way out of this moment and that governors can lead the way. To get to the point about the UN, we can then reach out to Canada, because we're a border state, and connect with premiers and even the prime minister and say, what can we do together to still protect our people and our respective economies, even in the midst of this recklessness that we're seeing come out of the federal government? So there are things that we can do, but it takes governors to stand up to this bully, to stand up to tyranny, and also stand up for their people and for an economy where everyone can thrive.
Hey everyone, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say just how grateful I am for all of your support for this channel and for this show. We have a big reporting trip coming up to Ukraine. I could use your help. We have to cover the film crew, interpreters, fixers, security. It's a whole thing. but it is worth it to be able to share with you and others what is actually happening on the ground there. I just published a feature story in The Atlantic about my last trip where I embedded with the drone unit at the front. Click the link below for the full article, and we'll be putting out more great fact-based reporting over Substack. Please consider subscribing. Everything I make from Substack and Patreon goes back into this show. Thanks for the help. I want to get specifically to the role of blue state governors in creating this bulwark against tyranny, a word you just used. But I got to ask you first, because I'm sure this happens every day to you now on the campaign trail, where you are talking to that farmer or that stay-at-home mom who bought into the Trump lie. I guess back to the first administration, but certainly in the last campaign where he said he would lower prices, where he said he would reform the economy in favor of the working man and woman, and it all turned out to be a stack of cards. I listen to my audience. A lot of them get very angry at those who voted for Trump, the 70 plus million Americans who fell for the lie and are in part responsible for the mess we're in right now. How do you enter those conversations with the kind of empathy it requires to understand that 70 million Americans, apart from that sliver that voted for him because of the racism, how do you talk to those who have regrets, and how do you give them the path out?
Well, first, those conversations are critical. We have to all have the conversations with people who, regardless of who someone voted for in the past, because we all have a shared future. And as the Secretary of State of Michigan, one of the things I run is not just our elections, but our Department of Motor Vehicles, the DMV. And so I am responsible for it makes me very popular, but I'm responsible for making sure everyone, no matter who they vote for, has a government that makes their life easier, that it's easy to renew your license, that it's easy to get your vehicle plates. And we've done that, whether it's in a red community, a rural community, an urban community, no matter where you live in Michigan. I don't care who you vote for. I want to make your life easier. And I've demonstrated that through my leadership of one of our state's largest agencies. So that gives me an opportunity. One, folks already know when I go into a rural community that perhaps 90% voted for Trump, and I'm sitting down with people over coffee and I'm asking them about their day. They already know, based on their experience with my office, that I'm going to work hard for them, no matter what side of the aisle they may be on. I was talking to someone in Macomb County the other day, a woman in her 70s, who said, proud Trump supporter, still to this day. And I said, well, tell me what we could do better. Tell me what we're doing wrong here in Michigan. And she said, healthcare is unaffordable. I can't afford my healthcare bills. And I don't understand why I pay taxes into a government and then my cost of living is going up. You're not doing anything to make my life easier. And I said, you know what? You're right. And so it's about hearing those struggles and then affirming the reality, because it's true. People are struggling all across our state, no matter who they voted for, and then committing with them that we'll not only hear something, but we're going to do something about it and we're going to deliver. So it's showing up, listening, and then delivering. If we do that, we can reknit our coalition back together, even if in this divisive time, based on seeing people where they are, meeting them there, and then delivering in a way that improves their lives across the board.
It makes total sense to me that those issues have to be the top priority when you're running for governor. Frankly, when you're running for most offices, right? What life is actually like, healthcare.
What are we doing this otherwise?
Well,
yeah.
The point.
What are we doing if we're not showing up every day to improve people's lives, improve their well-being, improve access to health and social security and benefits that people rely on? I mean, that's our job, no matter who someone votes for, to make their life easier. And everyone who's not doing that is abdicating the role and the responsibility and the power that is entrusted to them by the people who elected them.
That's all true. But we are also asking of our elected leaders, especially those at the top of the executive food chain, to look ahead, to anticipate challenges that aren't the so-called kitchen table issues. And one of those, and you called it out in your first answer, is looming tyranny. I mean, we see this in the way ICE is becoming a personalized enforcement mechanism for the commander-in-chief, something we have never had before in this country, at least at the national level. We had it in the Deep South and in certain pockets, and it never ended well. But it may well fall to blue state governors to hold the line. You are already seeing that in some states, especially when it comes to the deployment of National Guard units and those kinds of executive actions. governors, especially in blue states, may have to make decisions that they've never had to make before when it comes to confronting a real would-be tyrant in the White House. And look, I understand that that might not be the thing that comes up in every town hall or in most town halls because people are struggling in their day-to-day lives. But when the democracy is also on the line, it's something we have to ask about. And I'm wondering how you think about that, how you think about your likely charge in the years to come, should you become governor, to stand up to an authoritarian president.
Yeah, I'm just as I've done as Secretary of State, running our state's largest agency in a way that improves people's lives and stands up to anyone, anytime, anywhere who would try to interfere with our residents and their voice and their freedoms. I'll do it as governor on an expanded stage, on a more high profile stage, but certainly a critical stage in this critical moment where governors are the guardrails. Governors are the firewalls that are standing in between our people, our residents, and a federal overreach on a number of fronts that is harming their lives and not making things any better. Because of a rigged system, the cost of everything is going up while wages are stagnant. And at the same time, while these bills continue to go up and expenses continue to go up, we're seeing a president that's digging in to the rigged system and cutting benefits that people rely on to benefit people at the top at the expense of everyone else, and then overreaching into states' democracies to try to make it harder for citizens to then hold him accountable or others who do it in the future, thereby reinforcing the rigged system.
I'm glad you brought up accountability because I was going to go there next. How do you view the role of a governor in this moment, signaling to the administration that we're watching, our citizens are watching, our state governments are watching, and if you are breaking the law, if you are denying people due process, if you are abusing your authority as a member of the police, I'm referring not just to the officials at the top of these organizations, but the functionaries who feel emboldened, who have this permission structure now to brutalize our neighbors. How do you think about your responsibility to signal that this cannot go unanswered? And at some point, if not now, in the future, there will be accountability for the blatantly illegal actions that are now happening with seeming impunity.
Yeah, I think accountability can come in three forms. One, legal accountability. And governors, as well as attorneys general, should be using every tool in the toolbox to ensure the law is followed, the Constitution is upheld, and continuing to do that even in the face of all of the attacks on those who would use the law and enforce the law to try to seek justice. So one, continue pushing for legal accountability. Two, obviously political accountability is critical as well, making sure our democracy remains healthy despite the threats to it, so that people, the citizens, can not just hold these folks politically accountable at the ballot box in 26 and beyond, but also understand and connect the dots between their pain points, their rising cost of living, the unaffordability of things, and the challenges people are facing, finding good, well-paying jobs, and the decisions that this administration is making at the federal level to help their friends at the cost of sort of everyone else. So seeking political accountability is key. But the third is just as important, and that's accountability at every level. Meaning there are state and local officials that are trying to parrot what they are seeing at the federal level, and so we have to not just stand up to the corruption and the cruelty emanating out of the federal government, but when we see it being replicated at the state level, making sure that we are standing up to that as well and pointing it out. So I think that there's accountability across the board, lots of options, but we do have to engage other partners in that as well, from our citizens to our legal community to our business community and everyone in between.
Well, thanks so much, Jocelyn, for coming on. Where can people learn more about your campaign?
You can go to jocelynbenson.com to help us win, to help us build a coalition that can succeed in this key battleground state in 2026. And you can donate, support, sign up, volunteer. We've got a long road ahead of us, but I know we can win if we bring people together around a focus on improving people's lives and ensuring in Michigan and across the board we should live in a thriving economy and a democracy, and we can make that together.
Great. We'll put the link in the show notes. Great having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.